Tell me when we're officially going to start. We're on live. Oh my gosh. Well, welcome.
They were just watching paint dry for a few minutes.
What were they kibitzing about? Welcome, my name is Michael Bofshever, and we are at the Screen Actors Guild Foundation event, sponsoring this panel discussion with this distinguished group of artists and creative people to discuss the audition process, auditioning, creating a career. We'll be taking your questions from people who are watching around the country, hopefully, and we'll be addressing them here as well as people in the audience. So let me begin by having everyone just introduce themselves, starting at the end.
My name is Monika Mikkelson. I am a casting director of independent film.
Yay, Monika. James?
James Jones. I'm the owner of the Premier Talent Group, SAG-AFTRA franchised agency.
I'm Emily Grace. I'm the owner of Emily Grace Productions. I'm an actress, and I also help actors market themselves.
Nicholas Tabarrok. I'm a film and television producer.
Hi, I'm Carlease Burke, actress, stand-up comic. I work, I look for work, I create work. That's my job.
I love that. So we all know that being discovered at Schwab's is not going to happen, for those who remember Schwab's drugstore, as well as sitting by the pool waiting for the phone to ring is not going to create a career. How about we start down at the end? Monika, tell me what you think is perhaps the greatest myth an actor has about getting a career started.
About getting a career started.
Started. And you could, take the question wherever you would like.
Well, I see them at the beginning, so I guess there's such weight put on coming into my office when I'm rooting for you. So that, to me, I think is my biggest battle, is just to have the actor as comfortable as possible and do their best work in that room at that moment, and then be able to leave it and go to your next audition and your next thing for the day. I think that is it. The nervousness, I think, is what really sticks with me, that I want to eradicate.
And how do you go about that?
I'm goofy. I try to read you as quickly as possible in terms of what you need. Do you need to go into the room in character? Let me know. If you are very nervous, maybe you need a second. Do you need a second to go breathe? Maybe I need to show you the room where you should go and do the breathing exercises that you like to do before you do the reading, so you don't do it in the room. Do you have the right sides? Are we all cool? Do you need water? Those things. Just comfort you, give you a moment. I think that's really my focus.
And James, for you as an agent, can you see okay? Yeah. Tell me about when someone comes into your office and you're having your first meeting, whether it was because you've seen them or not. What do you think is the biggest problem you see with the actor when they walk in to meet with you?
I think the biggest thing, and also to touch upon a little bit the myth, some of the myths, to dispel the myths, is that it just doesn't happen overnight. And, what a developmental and semi-developmental actor needs to be doing isn't focusing on their bookings. It is focusing on how many impressions they leave in an office. Over a 3, 4, 5-year period, the most important thing for an actor is to get into every office they can and have them going, not right for this role, too young, too old, whatever, but have them go, but damn, they were good. Okay? The more that you do, it's going to build the traction you need for a career. So, I think, that there are so many myths about the marketplace, too. I don't know how many people here read, but I'm the author of the Pilot Report that goes out every year. That's very viral. And in fact, not to promote it, but I just finished it. It's 41 pages long this year. And but it's the reason I bring that up is it's very important to understand your marketplace. Right now on average, there's 2,000 to 3,000 submissions a roll. Many offices bring in 8 to 12 people per role. You know, so you've got to understand, who am I as an actor? What are my archetypes? Do all my marketing materials match those archetypes? And do you have an agent who's aggressively pitching you? I mean, like this year, there were 582 series regular roles, and a enormous, in fact, it's not as bad as last year, but well into the, I think it's 79%, the report's down there, so I don't know for sure, went to named and known actors, okay? So you have to understand the marketplace. So I'd say, to get back, sorry, I've had way too much caffeine, so I'm talking too long. But the reality is, the biggest myth is to think it's going to happen overnight and not understand the marketplace. The good news is, though, if you have talent, tenacity, and you give it time, good things will happen to you.
Emily, picking up on that as an actor and as a career counselor, right? What do you see when actors come to you, as in going on this theme of being a myth, that you feel that you need to tackle right away with them?
Well, I mean, it depends, but definitely, and to kind of piggyback on what James was saying, I think so many actors are focusing on just landing the audition. And they'll hustle really hard to get into that room. And like Monika was saying, if they don't, they may not book. They get into the room, they may do a great job, and then they don't book, and they think, oh, well, I blew it, that didn't happen, and then they drop the ball. And I think, sort of piggybacking on what they both were saying, what I try to help actors on is to focus on building relationships instead of just getting one opportunity, this short-term thinking, oh, I got to get this audition, I got to get more auditions, I have to up my auditions. And what I would encourage actors to do is really focus on connecting with people who can hire you, building up that know, like, and trust factor so that when 2,000-3,000 submissions come through an office, they go, oh, Gail Silver. Oh, yeah, I know her. I'm going to bring her in. So that's it.
Nicholas, for you as a producer and actors coming in, tell us, we're going to do the other side after a while, but tell us what problems you see that actors getting in their way when they get before you or you see their audition tapes.
I'm sorry, problems?
Well,
I'm not sure I
sure.
understand.
Monika was talking about an actor being relaxed and
Right.
breathing before they come in so that they could give who they are as a person in the audition. You're now viewing this tape that she just sent to your office. What are you seeing why someone is either getting in the way, or what makes you be won over by the actor's performance in their audition?
Gotcha, yeah. I think the primary thing is, I would echo what Monika said, is you really pick up on nervousness. I think whenever an actor comes in and they're not just in the audition itself, but even the walking into the room is so important. You walk into the room, hi, my name is so-and-so, I'm here to read for whatever. Natural, relaxed, it just helps so much. And when actors do come in who are visibly nervous, that it's an animalistic thing. It sort of puts you on edge, And another thing I think is at the audition level, this may not always be true on set, but the audition level, make it your own, I think don't worry too much about adhering rigidly to the script or the physical description of the actor or whatever it says on the sides. I and all the directors I've worked with and made films with are much more interested in seeing something new, original, fresh that maybe we hadn't thought of, rather than exactly as written. So if you think this character could be really fresh with an accent or something, ask. I mean, don't do it without saying it first, because you don't want to be taken. But say, hey, I read this. I'm going to do it straight. Can I try it with an Irish accent? I love that, and the directors that I've worked with love that too. So feel free to interpret. Feel free to bring something of your own to it that may not be on the page.
And actually, we have Michael here, who's an excellent example of, how was that? Should I do it again? How was that? Do you like that? You're always open, you, Michael, are always open to, should I change that? That makes a huge difference in the room. Like, I'm open, what do you direct me? And everyone in that room's like, yay!
Exactly.
It's a really cool thing.
Carlease, you mentioned in your personal introduction that you are a creator of work. Would you amplify on that for everyone here?
Well, what I mean by that is that I am always working, whether I'm auditioning or I'm going up for a pilot or a movie, a feature film, whether I'm in the room with Steven Spielberg or whoever it is. That's just part of what I do. But all those other times that I don't book a job, I'm not on a set somewhere. Hold my mic down. Okay, sorry. Was it too loud or covering my beautiful face? Which one? When I'm not actually on set working with those big wigs, as a lot of people would like to call them, I'm always creating my own work. I'm a stand-up comic. I have a show down in Long Beach that I've been producing and hosting for 5 years. I'm working on a web series. I am constantly working all day, every day, marketing, which I've learned an amazing amount of marketing from Emily Grace, how to put myself out there, build my own buzz. I work all day, every day, whether I'm on a set or not, whether there's a paycheck involved or not. I'm always working.
Actors, those here in the audience and those watching us on the internet all realize that tenacity, perseverance is the key to success in this business. Emily, why don't you discuss that for us?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that I tell my clients over and over and over is that the biggest difference between someone who is successful and who isn't is persistence. It's not necessarily talent. And if you happen to be a really talented actor, that's the most frustrating part, is I know I'm really good, and why is my friend who sucks the one who's booking? You know, like, it's painful. It's very painful. But, you know, why I get so passionate about what I do is I think actors are so misled to think that they only need to focus on being really good. Being really good is part of it. Delivering on demand is part of it. But until you know how to get into the room, if you're not taking all those other steps to get into the room and get back into the room and to let people know what you're up to and stay on the radar, it doesn't matter how talented you are. You are going to fall through the cracks. For someone like Carlease, who is amazingly talented, but she's hustling. She's out there hustling. She's staying on the radar. She's letting people know what she's up to. And
I don't wait for my agent to do it all for me. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but this is just an opportunity to say something that I wanted to say a few minutes ago, is that I love my management team and my agents. They are awesome, and I know they work their butts off for me, but I don't depend on them to do it for me. I'm always telling them where they can come see me in my next or newest venture. So I don't leave my career in the hands of anyone else. We're a team.
James, would you pick up on this for actors' perseverance and the fine line for you as an agent, have from your perception as how that should play out in the relationship between you and the actor?
Yeah, I mean, to touch on what Emily said a little bit, one of the things my agency does generally represent named, known, and heavy working actors, but we have an incredible pool of exceptionally strong semi-developmental actors, and what I tell each one of them is, it is about tenacity. You hit it right on the button. I say three things: time, talent, tenacity. And the only thing I would add is, you're a very outgoing individual, correct?
I am?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. I sometimes actors, being artists, can be very introverted, however, and be very shy. And sometimes they feel at a disadvantage because they're not chemically wired or whatever to be a hustler, per se. And a lot of my clients do fall into that category. Now, many are extraordinarily established, 100, 200 credits, and as shy as can be. I mean, my goodness, God bless them. But what I tell them is, that's when you have to just get in front of CDs, okay? And that's where the agent comes in. Look, I know a lot of my peers don't pick up the phone. I know a lot of my peers have way too many clients. The reality is, sometimes an agent does need to call and be aggressive about saying, hey, look, you need to see this person. You may not know them. And then they can let their talent shine. They're not the hustler types per se. They don't fall into that category. A lot of them in earlier years did workshops. So they're always in front of people. So, you have to almost look at your individual makeup and say, well, how can I be proactive? If you're an introvert, there's a way to be proactive, as well as for those who are extroverts. So I would just add that, to the equation. But I couldn't agree more. One of the things, because if anybody reads my pilot report, some other reports, I'm a bit of a numbers geek and I study way too much. And one of the things I've done is, I will take hundreds of actors who are successful. Actually, it's probably close to 1,000 now, and I will study their career trajectory entirely. Years between, what did they book, was co-stars, guest stars, so forth. The reality is nobody makes it overnight. I want to say that again. I mean, it's like Morgan Freeman's one of my favorites. Really didn't get traction until he was 4-3. Sam Jackson, 39. I mean, the list is endless of actors who you think just appeared. But if you look, and IMDb doesn't list things like a lot of SAG-ULs or shorts or student films. It's you got to be honing your craft, working your craft. I do represent a lot of professional athletes and have over the years, and it's a lot like that. Your game has to get better every day, whether that's growing as an actor by your craft or just learning about movement from watching a bird.
Let me jump in on, I think, which was the next question I was going to ask, and I'll start with you, Nicholas, and then Monika, perhaps you can follow up on it, is the importance of craft and having, being, as much as one can look to be persistent and look to try to find work, that when they get into the room or they get onto the set, they have to be able to deliver and have something to offer as an artist. Talk about the importance for you as a producer in casting a film, as well as when we get to, I'll ask you the same question. And would you discuss how you see that?
Yeah, sorry to do this twice, but I'm still not sure the question. What's the actual question?
I'm going to ask double questions for Nicholas. The importance of craft for an actor in you determining hiring that person or not.
Got it. And by the importance of craft, you're not talking about the food service.
Well, that could be very important, right? Actors love to eat. Craft service is always good.
Okay.
One joke for Nicholas.
Well, for me, unlike everyone else on this panel, I'm involved with an actor at the sort of the end of their time approaching the film. I'm not involved with their prep and their work and their years of sort of persistence getting to that point. So this may seem slightly disingenuous or kind of contradictory to what you're hearing from these people, but it really isn't. But for me, the craft is transparent to me. It's all about the performance. So if someone comes in and does a great audition, I don't know, nor do I need to know, if they are Juilliard trained and been at it for 20 years, or if this is a hobby for them and they came off, their waitressing job. All that matters to me and the director, unless we're talking about star casting, which is about raising financing for the film, which is a whole other issue. But if we're not talking about that, the craft actually, the performance has to be there. The ability to act has to be there, obviously. That's paramount. That's the only thing that I'm looking for. But the training that goes into that is transparent to me. Whether it's been there or not, or the complete naturals, I don't know, I don't need to know, and really I don't care. I just want a great performance on the day.
Monika, could you go forward, pick up on this importance of craft and having something to offer as an actor when they come to see you?
Yes, I can.
Would you?
I am hired, ideally, by my producer and director to be the primary sorter so that they don't have to think about that. And to me, training is vital. You can take in information, you can take in direction, you can process what that character needs, you understand why you entered the room, why you're leaving the room, and who you're talking to when you're in that room. All of that you learn in an acting class. There are styles, everyone has their choice, there are people that morph different things, there are archetypes, there's so many different varieties because we're in Los Angeles where it's the hub. And we're sending you off into the world to shoot. And so we've seen it all. Theater training, television, commercial, line readings, cold readings. There's so many different versions that you can pick from here in Los Angeles. And it's just about finding what works for you. But it is my job to make sure that I know as much about you and how you will work for the people that have hired me. I'm their personal shopper, and I'm looking at you as a pretty pair of shoes. Is this the right pair of shoes, or is this the right pair of shoes? and I'm shopping for them to populate their film. And so I have a whole palette, and I want to make sure that palette works together. So if there's a really aggressive actor that's like, I'm going to punch her in the face to get her to be mad at me, I make sure that that actress is ready to get punched in the face if that's the priority. If they don't like that, I mean, we break up marriages. There's acting is a serious business, and we need to be aware of all of those and all the emotions that you guys have to process and what you need in order to get that up. If my 8-year-old doesn't cry on cue, I have a crew that's pissed. That 8-year-old needs to cry, and make sure that we don't damage that 8-year-old either. There's a whole series of things that we need to know. And that's why they hire a casting director to process all of that information.
Let's look to the audience here and see if someone has a question yet on their mind. Yes, ma'am, with the pink hat.
Yes, so I like the 3 T's, very systematic. But, so this is my question. If someone, there was a pause in their life and they're taking on, they've got all their ducks, and they're very fortunate to have all their ducks. They're beginning at a different period of time. Would you still say, in a purely business analytical way, because the industry seems so controlled and locked down, so totally different from what it was 25 years ago, would you still say they have a chance to have a significant career in terms of, financially successful and stable?
Do we know whether that question was heard on the internet? Okay, well, the question from the woman in the audience for James was having taken a break perhaps in their career, coming back to it perhaps more as a middle-aged actor, whether there is hope and opportunity for the actor.
It's a really good question. We deal with that on a pretty regular basis at my agency. I call it seasons of life. I think every actor is going to have that. Whether it's a health issue, family, business, you need to make some money to continue your career later on. I think the fundamental, to get to the business side that you were asking, it really comes down to finding the right agency or the right management firm or a combination of the two, because, as I said, we do specialize in what I call it repositioning an actor. And it just takes a lot of heavy lifting by an agent and or management firm, and combined is most optimum. But it is most definitively possible. Many people on my roster have 4 or 5 years. I have one right now that was a very, very big name for a short period of time, a couple of years. Had a particular personal issue. Came to us about a year ago, and we've gotten her enormous traction in the last 6 months.
Are you giving up initials on this?
Yeah, so it's very possible, but you need a really proactive presence on your team.
Monica?
And it's beneficial to you because, to take someone on to do that heavy pushing, why would you choose to do that when you can take on the other?
Great question again. I kind of like it.
Monica, did you want to pick up on that?
I just wanted to also say that in that break, there has been monster changes in the world, but there are also changes that could benefit you. And you can put yourself on tape. And I'm sitting on a panel with a young lady who put herself on tape for me. And I didn't ask for that, but it impressed me. And she made an impact because she put herself in front of me virtually. What? Awesome. Technology. It's our friend. We can use it. And current phone numbers on your resumes? You wouldn't believe it. Just update that so we can get to you. It's a really common sense thing, but so many people get caught up in it's not the right font on my print for my resume, and I don't care if it's handwritten. Current phone number.
One thing I would also add, I'm sorry, is and then I'll shut up. We're also, one of the dynamics that have changed in studying the marketplace is there's actually more opportunities now than virtually ever because of the proliferation of cable, right? And so, with anything in life, there's both opportunity and challenges.
Carlease?
I was just going to piggyback on what everybody else said. Because of the changes in technology with YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, blogging, there are so many ways to put yourself out there and create a platform for yourself. Yes, you may want the agent and you may need the agent at some point. Well, we all do, but there's ways to do things for yourself to get noticed as well in the meantime. And that's what, when I said earlier, yes, my team is important, but I don't wait for them to do everything for me. So I'm trying to learn, what happened? So I'm trying to learn about all of the opportunities that I have technically to help myself.
Do you want to add on? Go ahead.
There are agents, and I'm sure you have one at your office, that their jobs now are to watch YouTube, to watch the internet on these channels, to look for new talent. And we have interviewed, I certainly have interviewed for producers that are asking me about my YouTube access. I'm like, I watch it. But we find people on the internet now that don't have any representation. I sent an email to a man in Mississippi because I found his impersonation of a church-going woman delightful. This is so possible, and the agents actually do have people in their offices that are hired to find you.
I gotta get into this internet thing. I gotta get into this internet thing.
What's that?
I gotta keep hearing about the internet. I gotta get into it.
Oh, I thought you had a comment to make about it.
We have a question that was sent to us from Phoenix, Arizona, from Lily Richardson. Thanks for watching, Lily. Emily, why don't you jump up on this one? What do you suggest is the best way to stay in contact with an episodic directors you've worked with and really like their work ethic, or that not advised? I didn't get that last part. Or, well, there is no, yeah. Or is that not advised? Yeah, there's no
Oh,
is.
okay,
Thank
okay.
you.
An episodic television director.
Right, staying in contact, whether episodic directors or anyone you have worked with in the past.
Yes, absolutely. If someone has hired you, they like you. So you want to keep that relationship going. And probably everyone here could attest to this, but people like to work with people they know they can rely on. So if someone hired you in the past and you did a great job, they'll probably want to hire you again without having to go through the process of holding auditions for that role. Always, you want to stay in touch with people who like your work and are a fan. There are a number of ways to do that, provided you took the step to get their contact info and get permission to stay in touch with them. If you get on set, especially with episodic directors, because they move around so often. It's not like they're at the office every day. They're jumping from show to show. It's really in your best interest to feel it out. There's an art to it. Hey, I'm so grateful to work with you. Thanks you so much for the opportunity. I'd love to know if it's okay if I keep in touch with you. Take their lead. If they say, yeah, here's my email, or check me out on Facebook. If they give you permission to stay in touch, do it. Always, 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 always do it. You need to sort of feel out how much is appropriate. You don't need to email someone every week. You don't even need to email someone every month if they've already hired you. Maybe quarterly, every couple of months, when you have something going on. This is actually a big, big thing. Actually, I have a solution for it. Because so many actors, they stop marketing themselves when they don't have anything to say. Right? I haven't booked anything in forever, and no one wants to hear from me until I book something. I'm going to wait. And if you wait and you stop marketing yourself, you drop the ball, you lose that momentum, and the likelihood of you booking something else becomes less because you're not marketing yourself. It's a huge catch-22. I have a free video for you that has a solution of how you can market yourself when you have nothing to say, because we all have it.
Where could we find this video for free?
Yeah, get the video for free.
And where do we find it?
You can find it. I made a special page. It's emilygrace.tv/SAG.
Great.
Easy to remember.
Easy to remember, yes.
But it's a great question. Like Monika, we have a relationship now.
True.
True, we have a relationship now. She's seen my work. She liked my work enough to call me in for something else. I haven't booked anything through her, but I'm on the radar now. Now I pitched her to be on this panel. Like, we have a relationship. And yeah, definitely get the video, because we all go through lulls of, I'm not gonna market myself, nobody wants to hear from me. You have to. You have to find a way to market yourself, and I have a good solution. So
Yeah, go ahead.
get it.
Yes, yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to add to that it's not only just about you and what you're doing. It might behoove you to learn something about the person you're marketing to.
That's what's
and
in the video.
What? Did I learn that from you?
It's in the video.
Oh, okay, then, all right, I'm not gonna tell you then. I'm not gonna share it with you. So there, now I know where I learned it. Girl, thank you, girl.
So let me ask the audience here, and I'll get to your question next. How many people currently are creating a project for themselves to be working on? Fabulous.
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
Congratulations.
This gentleman right here in the blue shirt, what are you working on?
It's a web series with some buddies of mine.
Great. What else? What else is going on? Somebody. Yes, go ahead.
I just got a web series called Son of Mum.
Called what?
Son of Mum.
Son of Mom. I love it. Yes, sir.
I have a feature film that's not completed yet.
That you're writing.
It's already written, we're already in production.
Fabulous. Yes, ma'am.
My twin sister and I have a comedy show on YouTube called NakedTwins.com about, I mean,
Hold on. NakedTwins.com. Can we get that up now?
Excellent marketing.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I've written a solo show called Growing Up with Uncle Milty about a teenager who's absolutely obsessed with Milton Berle growing up and gets to know him.
Naturally.
So,
And it's
right.
brilliant. I've seen it. It's brilliant. That's
Have you
Pat.
read?
Yes.
That's
Pat
fabulous.
Brunson.
Yes.
I am producing a documentary called The Real Shaws of Beverly Hills, and we are writing a book for her 7-year-old son, Zachary Alexander Rice, entitled Act Like a Kid. It's a book by a 7-year-old actor for child actors and their stage parents.
Terrific. Someone in the yes, all the way in the corner there. Yeah, I can't really see that well.
My name is Josh Mann. I wrote, directed, and starred in a short film called Dispelling, and I'm also planning to make it into either a television series or something bigger.
Good for you. And I think there are two women in front. Yes, go ahead. One at a time.
I do YouTube sketch parody videos, which I produce, I write, and I'm in character as Michelle Obama. All over 6 million views.
That's 6 million. Congratulations. And the woman next to you, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
When you have people, agents that are designed to look and comb through YouTube, if you're not on the homepage, how are you finding this? The homepage of YouTube?
As what I understand it and how we have set it up in our office when we compare notes with agents that we're friendly with, we go by like word of the day. It's so random and so completely accidental. It's based on, there was a college recruiter in the 80s, I went to college, and then we sent in handwritten applications. And the college recruiter picked blindly 10 kids and gave them admission to Boston College. And he made it his beer kids. He would take them out for a beer and explain the expectations. It wasn't based on numbers, it wasn't based on skill, it was just a blind shot. And I loved that so much that I told the people I worked for about it, and we enacted that into our casting jobs for certain roles where we could just throw it at the screen and see what happened, and just pull auditions from the people that sent in their own pictures and resumes at the time. It was the 90s at that point. Pictures and resumes came in the mail. So we would pick through them and we'd be like, beer kids. That's what YouTube is now. We're like, beer kids. And we just check random people and you go by hits. 6 million hits. That's amazing. You're eligible for people that want to advertise on your channel. That's a money-making event for you.
I encourage everyone to do videos on YouTube, even if they're not being paid.
Just so we can all hear, and the people who are, who are watching on, listening on the internet, the woman who was talking about having 6 million hits on YouTube is telling everyone to go ahead and produce something and put it on the internet because you never know who's going to see it. I was really impressed by how many people are being proactive in their careers, creating work and not sitting by the telephone waiting for it to ring. Nicholas, for you as a producer, what suggestions or advice perhaps you might have for all of these entrepreneurial actors that are in the audience, having made and produced films yourself?
Right. Produce it for a market, produce it for an audience. That is, I mean, clearly, this person back here has got 6 million viewers. They've done that very successfully. Figure out who's going to watch this, who's going to want to see it, and make it work for that audience, for that demographic, whomever it is. Because ultimately, it's got to be seen by people. It can't be for your own personal expression. I mean, that's great, but if it's going to be successful for you in your career, it has to be seen by people.
How about another question from the audience here in front of us? Yes, sir, I said yes.
You were talking about marketing. My name's Oliver, by the way. And I was wondering how you get to the point of getting your pay scale to go up. And
As an actor?
yes.
How does an actor increase how much money they're going to be paid?
That conversation is over. It's going down. Just, you have to accept that. I'm so sorry.
That's one thing I wanted to, as the agent here, I wanted to throw my 2 cents worth on that.
Only 2 cents?
That's about what it's worth right now. No, Monica couldn't be more correct. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a numbers cruncher. The average income's gone down between 1/3 and 40% in the last 4 years, okay? Quotes are tools for agents.
And
but-
not being respected.
Exactly. But they're not realized most of the time. What as an agent, what I have to do constantly is, there's essentially there's the ask and the take. Okay, and somewhere in between the two, you're going to meet. I rep a number of series regulars to heavy working actors, and you have to understand exactly what show or project you're on and what they're dealing with, and then what the value of your own client is to that project. And every negotiation is different. For some of my series regulars, I know that they're needed. But let me tell you something. They ain't that needed that they can't be written out of a script, okay? There's always a line. Now, my job as an agent is to push the line as far as I can with my wonderful casting director and producer friends. But the one other thing I want to say about this is for TV particularly, because many of you will be doing TV stuff right now. Every show is different, okay? I had 2 top shows on CSI not that long ago. One of them was a true top show. The whole script was written around this person, and he was
Top
the
of
killer.
show is?
Top of show is the highest paid guest star. And essentially, when you're a top of show guest star, typically you're what the script revolves around, okay, for that week. And he got paid a very significant income, okay? I had another one who was top of show, didn't do nearly the amount of work, but got paid about the same, okay? Because CSI is an established franchise with very deep pockets. I'm working on a cable show, negotiating with a cable show, may be very successful, but they might have side deals with AFTRA, okay? They might be making a half to 40%, okay? Because that show might have 15, I worked on one today, they got 15 regs and heavy recurs, and it's a cable show. So I'm not gonna get the dollar. So it's show by show, project by project, and fully understanding what that actor's value is to the project. And that's what every actor has to understand too, is that is the marketplace we're dealing with. It's not cut and dried anymore. Sorry, taking too long.
Nicholas, did you see, were you about to add in on this?
I was,
Please.
and really saying more the same. And from my side of the table, which is the opposite from you all, unfortunately, it really is, to your question directly, what can I do to raise my quote, my value, is from my side of the equation, it's you have to help me sell tickets. That if you aren't a commodity, and I'm sort of talking such terms, but this is the reality of the business we all work in. If you're not a commodity that helps me raise money, then there is no conversation beyond scale. I mean, that really is the reality of the business.
And to add to that too is one thing is many people here will be doing co-star and guest stars, correct? Am I right? And that isn't going to add to that show's bottom line per se, because they're not a name. So that you fall into just the more mundane things of what's that budget going to be that week? What is the network going to say that we're cutting expenses this much and that much per show? So again, incredible variety, but you raise a great point for film particularly. They got to sell product. And so if you've got a name, that's going to help them sell product.
And I think, if I can just
Yes,
jump in,
please.
I think that's why it's so important for you to be in charge of building your own buzz, building your own visibility, because they're looking at how many Facebook followers you have now, and they're looking at how much of an audience that you have, and those things can become a factor. Obviously, it depends on the project. Like a guest star on a television isn't going to help them, but an indie film might. They might be like, great, this person's going to help us build a buzz about this film, and you booking that indie film might take you to a festival that wins an award, which then puts you in a better place to book the co-star or the guest star or the top of show. So you guys, have you heard of Miles Fisher? You should look him up if you haven't. He made some really amazing videos. They went viral. He combined like a Talking Heads cover with a American Psycho video, and he's just done a really great job with building his own visibility. And one of the things that he said in this interview with this guy, Brian Solis, Solis, he said, you need to prove that you're worth watching.
And there's amazing acting work to be had in other places, not just Los Angeles. You can act on a cruise ship.
Yep.
You can act in a theater. You can act at Disneyland, and they give you health insurance. There are opportunities outside of television and film that can still be explored for financial good living.
Let's take a
Fame is
question
here.
from the internet. Shanita Moore from Los Angeles, California, wrote to the panel, what would be some tips the panel would advise to get past feeling burnt out? If you feel like you've been doing many of these tips for many, many years and still not getting the results you want, take some time off? Yes.
I would suggest exactly that. If you're feeling burnt out, stop. Refuel, recharge, give yourself sometimes, if someone comes to me and they're really burnt out and struggling and exhausting, I'm not gonna give them a new marketing plan. I'm not gonna give them new strategies to do because they're not feeling it, they're not believing it. And so what I will most often suggest is take a freaking day off. Take a day off where you only do what you enjoy. If you're not enjoying it, if you've forgotten why you got into it in the first place, you need to take care of yourself before you do anything else. Because if you're empty, if you're coming from an empty place or like a down place, it shows, and you don't enjoy it, and no one else is enjoying it either. It's very painful, and I would absolutely suggest that you give yourself permission to make yourself happy. If that means sitting at home and watching Real Housewives for a whole day, do it. See, everyone got excited about that. Like, yeah, do it. Fill your soul before you market.
Carlease, as an actor yourself and going on off of what Emily is talking about, what have you done to refuel yourself as an artist when you feel like you run up against the wall?
Well, I agree with doing things that you enjoy. I first of all, I want to say that I went to a workshop one time, and I believe it was Paul Reiser that suggested to be a good actor, you get a life. Meaning, have a life. I mean, have a real life. Go out, date, have children, skydive, do whatever it is that just involves life that has nothing to do with acting. Because just watching other actors is not going to make you a good actor. And worrying about why somebody else is getting a role and you're not doesn't help you in your career. And so with that, I take time to do things that I enjoy. I realized maybe about a year ago, someone asked me what were my hobbies. And I didn't have any. I didn't have an answer because I didn't have any hobbies. Because all I did was act and work and look for work and act and work and look for work. And it was just this cycle. And it has its payoff, but everything I did was about work. And it always connected to a job somehow or the potential for a job. And so I started looking at what do I want to do that just brings me joy. And now I have hobbies. If you go to my Pinterest account, I have a board that's just hobbies, and on it is karaoke, and I play the djembe. I'm learning how to play an African drum called djembe. I like bicycling. I could stand to lose a few pounds, so that's a win-win situation. Karaoke, djembe, bicycling, and I learned sign language, but it did end up being connected to acting, so there's a win-win situation as well. But I have hobbies, and I do stuff that I just enjoy doing.
So what we're talking about is that people need to find balance in their lives to be able to be full in on having a career and pursuing it, but also having a life and finding virtue and joy out of that as well. We've got a question here from Benjamin, who is a producer, and he said that I've written a drama with an actor attached to it. How do I get it to a known director so I could try to attach them to the feature, and then I could go on to fundraising after? Let me just touch on that a little bit. I don't know where people are aware of Kickstarter.com and Indiegogo.com. Both great websites are crowdfunding websites. I just produced a film that I'm acting in with a bunch of recent MFA grads from USC who wrote and directed it. And we raised our money on the website, and none of us put any money in it, and we're just finishing up. I think that's a great tool for all actors to have in raising and funds and putting something up. But can someone elaborate even more on this question?
Well, I think there's a bit of a catch-22 in that question, because he said that I've attached an actor to, how do I get it to a named director? Now, that can work against you, because depending on who the actor who you've attached, a named director, depending on how you define that, is going to want to have that choice. They're not going to want a project. If you've attached Matt Damon, I'm sure that's going to be open to many directors. But if you've attached, even if they're a great actor, but if you attach somebody that the director isn't familiar with, and you want to get it to Steven Soderbergh isn't going to want to take a project in which they're not going to cast those roles. So it's a little bit of the wrong order. You typically have your director first, and then with the director go to cast. So again, if it's cast driven, if we're talking about a name cast, then that can attract a director, and directors would be happy to work with a handful of actors. But if it isn't, that actually is going to work against you getting a name director.
Right, great. I would also add, in talking about this Indiegogo and Kickstarter, that the people here in looking for work should, since we're here in Hollywood, and the people who are watching us in the areas that they live in, is to go to the film schools and make sure that your picture and resume is on file with up-and-coming young filmmakers. There's the old story that there was a post up on the NYU Film School board many, many years ago, and an actor walked in, looked at it, and got the attention of the director, and the director hired him, and the actor was Harvey Keitel. The actor was Harvey Keitel, and the director was Martin Scorsese. And so here in Los Angeles, we have USC and UCLA and AFI, and they all keep files of actors in all different age categories, and you just never know who you're going to run into when they're just getting started, and hopefully in pursuing a career and being proactive, that you create a relationship with that person. Yes?
And also, just the third part of that is you're an actor telling a story. You're not hunting to be famous. You have to earn the fame by doing the work. You're an actor telling a story. Find the storytellers that want to work with you. And right now, film school. Find the next Scorsese. They're incredibly devoted to you. I work in independent film with all the first-timers. We really fight to defend that director, that writer-director, that DP that's becoming a director's right to tell their story with actors that are telling the same story. Fighting that name fight is a big battle, and you're not names, so tell the story. Do good work.
Emily?
So important.
Yeah, I would say I think it's important to to work and to work with people that you enjoy working with. I also think it's important, especially as actors, because we fall into this desperate place of please like me, please validate me, and then we have no standards. And sometimes I liken it to, are you treating your career like a loser boyfriend or girlfriend, where you lower your standards to the point where you're resentful of the job. So whatever jobs you're considering, you know, whether it be student films or something else, to really know why you're choosing to accept the project. What are your standards? What return do you need to get back to
Are
make
you
it
fed?
worth it to you?
Like, is it feeding you?
Yeah, do they respect you? Is it fed? Or do they commit to giving you the copy? Do they treat you with respect? You know, is it a story that you want on your reel? Is it something that is going to showcase you in a way that you want to build your reputation as being able to do? So, you know, really give yourself credit to sometimes turn things down if they just don't meet your standards, because you never want to get in a position where you hate acting. It completely ruins the point. And actors, I think, are one of the most terrifying things is to say no. But it actually, every project that you say yes to, you have to say no to something else, whether that be spending time on your hobby that refuels your soul, or spending time with your family, or whatever it is. Whatever you say yes to takes up room that you can't do something else, so you want to make sure that you're behind it.
James, we have a question from someone here in the audience. The person asks, when I first joined SAG 30 years ago, it was stated in a SAG workshop, 12 agents control top-tier roles. With the changes in the industry, is that the same? Or is the decision makers' numbers the same?
All right, now you've asked me to do it. Well, yes and no. Let me get to the right page, all right?
Do not duplicate, it
Yes.
says on every page.
All right. So, this pilot season, for example. Now, again, we're talking series regular. It's different roles, okay? But the top 10 agencies accounted for 78.8% of all series regular roles, okay? The top 20 accounted for 92.6%. All right, so sure, there's a certain amount of, see? Only a couple of stats. There's a certain amount of that, but it's highly overstated to say 12 people. Like the industry itself, there has been a dramatic blossoming of the amount of agents. We're not or powerful agents, even at the boutique level. I mean, we're a boutique agency. We keep our roster very small, very handpicked, and we do extraordinarily well in the marketplace. So, we're not in those days of really a handful of people dominating. Now, sure, certain things, yeah, if you're with Gersh, CAA, UTA, your agency has an advantage. However, they also have that advantage because they've got the named actors. So it's kind of chicken or the egg, really. It's about who you have on your roster that makes you somebody that can compete in the marketplace. So to a certain extent, of course, that's correct. But I would say now there's probably more like 40 to 50 actual agencies that have what we call a certain amount of pull or push in the marketplace.
For anyone on the panel, let's go from the place that there is a young actor wanting to get started. Whether they're here in the audience or on the internet watching us, what advice or suggestion might you have for them about whether or not it's essential to come to Los Angeles at a young age, or having worked in the theater perhaps where they live, or to stay where they are in the region perhaps? Any thoughts on that? Carlease?
Excuse me, a young actor. Or an old one.
Let's start with the young
No,
and then
let's start
go to
with
the
young
old.
ones. Okay, I see a young actor out here right now, the gentleman in the greenish jacket. And what I would say, first and foremost, I would ask him if this is what he wanted to do. If this was your goal, your passion, and your love. And then I would say, go for it. You are here in Los Angeles, but for those of you who aren't, if it's really, really what you want to do, excuse me, get involved in your area in a play, create some YouTube videos with your friends, get involved in where you are. My mantra is be a star where you are. Do whatever you can, wherever you can, and follow what's in your heart and what brings you joy. Acting is fun. It is joy. It's not a hobby for all of us, but for you, it might be a hobby, maybe not. Just jump into it. Start doing things that you like, that your friends like. Enlist your parents to help you, because I didn't have a lot of support from my parents, so I didn't get to do it at a young age. And that's okay. I'm still doing it now. I'm channeling the child inside. So first of all, know that this is what you want to do, and just jump in there wherever you are and start playing. Just play and have fun and see where it leads you.
Yeah, Nicholas?
Speaking less emotionally, spiritually, a bit more hard-nosed, sort of practically, I would respectfully disagree a tiny bit to be a star where you are. I would answer the question with a clear yes. If you want to be in the business, move to Los Angeles. I just think it's a reality. If you want to be on Broadway, move to New York. You want to be in film and television, move to Los Angeles. You're not going to do it outside of those centers.
Yes, let's go down the line. Yes.
I would actually disagree with that. Only because I've worked with clients who are outside of the major markets, New York and LA, who are building careers where they are. And I think maybe eventually you do need to move to Los Angeles. But Atlanta is a great center for film and TV. Southern Florida, there's tons of work down there. Toronto, there's a really great hub for film. Chicago, yeah, there are lots of other markets. And I think, Monika brought this up earlier. She said there are other places to act besides Los Angeles. So what I would suggest to the young actor, certainly get clear about what it is you want to do. Because if you want to do theater, you should probably go to New York or Chicago. If you definitely want to do primetime film and television and big budget, then you probably should come to LA. If you are a stand-up comedy person, maybe you want to go back to Chicago. It really depends on what you feel like your soul needs. Not everyone comes to Los Angeles. Lots of actors are kicking it in Philly. It just depends on what it is that you want to do. But see, what makes Nicholas happy, what makes Nicholas feel successful and happy is being here. And what makes the actor in Philadelphia feel like they're successful and happy may be totally different. And that's why it's so important for the actor to have clarity about that, because that is what's going to drive all the decisions that you make. That is what's going to encourage you to train in improv versus theater versus commercial versus voiceover. There's so many different ways to create a career that once you are clear about that, you can create a path to fulfill that. I mean, personally, I love film and TV, so I'm on the Los Angeles train, but not everyone feels that way. So look inward to what you need and not outside to what everyone else is telling you should do.
James, do you want?
Yeah, my first career was in national politics, so the votes are 2-1 right now, and I'm not going to take a vote. I totally agree with what you were saying. I think, again, though, everybody has, again, I've studied a lot of career paths. Everybody's going to have a different path to get here. Okay, I agree completely. It depends on what your genre is. If you're stage places, comedy places. If you're doing TV and film, it's here. Okay, but if you can be, you mentioned it. I'm taking your thunder.
Awesome.
Vancouver, man. If you can work up there, you're going to grab some nice credits. So, it's all about the credits. So if you are in a locale where you can get some good, quick credits that are reputable, things you're proud of, and then come to LA, you're going to be ahead of the game. Okay? So, I think it's a blend of the two, and I'm going to throw another number at you. I'm sorry. But again, it goes to the whole trajectory of a career is in this year's pilot season, which always have younger averages than actual other roles on film, guest stars and co-stars on TV. 46% of everybody who booked a series regular role was over the age of 35, and a third over the age of 40. Okay, so this is a long-term career now. You know, the fact is, everybody, a lot of 20-somethings I meet, they're like, oh my God, I got to get it done now, I got to move forward. No, okay. Right now, because of the rise of cable and the type of shows that are very successful in Hollywood, it's about authenticity, it's about great scripts, and execution by the actor. And they're looking for authentic. You don't have a 26-year-old.
And every teen star needs parents.
Exactly. And those parents are 40s, 50s, 60s, trust me. So it's a long-term career. So, you know, pick your spots, and maybe it's local, getting some of those early credits, or maybe it's just coming into the deep pool here and working on it.
Monica?
I have sort of a simpler answer. We'll find you. Stay where you are. Stay where you are, young, old. If you're available for the audition and you can send it to us and we can't live without you, you'll get a plane ticket. And you'll be able to sense, they keep flying me out. Maybe I should move there. Stay at home until you start getting tickets. You can be a star where you are. Fantastic. It's fantastic. We will find you.
Nicholas, would you like a last word? Stand tall, buddy.
From an emotional point of view, fantastic. It's great.
Here we go.
Business point of view, humbly, respectfully disagree.
Good
But
for
we're
you.
talking about children who can't, well, you say young, you mean how young? We're talking about, they need to, you know, are you just going to pick up and just move because your child saw, you know, something on TV and, well, I need to be at Los Angeles because Nicholas said on the live streaming, it could disrupt a whole family. And then,
Wow, talk about a guilt trip on that.
you've hired a casting director. Is that kid a local hire? Yes, yes, he is.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Monica, get him to LA now. Okay.
I'm sorry. I hope I didn't shatter anybody's dream.
So we have a question from Ben in New York City. Ben says, thanks for the stream I'm watching from New York City. Many of these kinds of tips seem very clean and responsible for achieving success. What are some dirtier tips for achieving success? The kind of tips that have worked in the past but probably aren't talked about publicly.
Ben.
Emily's jumping on this quickly. Go for it, Emily.
Go.
Here's the deal. You can only sleep your way to the middle. So at best, so if that's the track that you are deciding to take, you're worth more than the middle. That's all I'm gonna say.
You know, I want to add something to that. As an agent, yeah, I'd say you probably sleep your way to the bottom almost, or the low, but at best the middle. You know what? Look, it's your talent. You know, talent and tenacity. You know, you got it. People are going to come to you. You know, I see so many actors get so desperate, especially at a young age, and there's so much pressure. And something you said earlier too about, you know, pick projects you're proud of. You know, if it's, I don't care if it's a web series, a SAG-UL, SAG short, be proud of what you do. Tell that story, as Monica said. And you know what? As an agent, we don't do dirty tricks. You know, it's like, look, the reality is we have relationships with casting and producers that go back a long time. And actors who do that, they don't get ahead.
Yes?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if I knew those dirty tricks, Ben, I'd be a series regular by now. No, no, I don't actually know if I would, though. I don't. I think it's about maintaining your integrity. And I can honestly say I'm proud of my career. I'm proud of my IMDb page. I'm proud of everything I've ever done. And, you know, it's about integrity at the end of the day. And that's what I think is more important.
And work. Do homework. Work. It is work. You have to make a book. Each page has a casting director's name at the top of the page. Does he like postcards? Does she hate postcards? Does he like an email? Is my current phone number on my resume? There's work. Yeah. like there are certain things, like if you've done your homework on me, you know that I'll remember random things. Someone's fetish for boy bands, for example. There are things that we remember. So, okay, just do your homework. Know who you're going in. You're seeding the room. We were talking about this earlier in the waiting room. You're planting your little flower with every person that sees you, and they take that seed with them, and they remember. I worked for a guy when we were on a television show, and he had gone to Northwestern, and he knew an actress from a Northwestern class. He couldn't quite remember her name, but her last name was German for garlic. I had to find her. He remembered that because she made an impact in an acting class that he was a viewer of. These things, you don't know when it comes, you don't know why. Your job is just to do a good job in that room, seed the room, leave an impression that's a good one, and go on with your day.
You know, one of the things, too, that I've heard from casting, first of all, I'm fortunate to have very blunt relationships with casting, so they tell me what happens with a lot of my actors. And first of all, never be snooty. You know, if it's a casting intern, be nice to them. It's just human, you know, dignity. But it's also, you know, if you develop an authentic relationship with casting associates, casting assistants, you know, it doesn't always have to be the big kahuna, you know, like Monika here, you know. It's like, get to know everybody in the office, you know. And you know, sometimes that casting associate or assistant can also be a really good source of information about what someone like Monika does like. Does she not like postcards? Does she like postcards? And you could just honestly ask, say, I want to stay in touch. Monika said it was okay to stay in touch with me or with her, and does she like postcards? And they'll tell you, you know. So it's about authentic relationships. Success in this town, it really is much more about that than the dirty tricks.
Emily?
Yeah, and I agree with that. You know, I was making a joke about sleeping your way to the middle. I don't recommend that as a strategy for anyone, because the thing is, you know, it's a small business and everybody talks and everybody knows everybody, and especially in this age of transparency with Facebook and Twitter, and everyone is so easily, whatever you're up to, it's very easy to come out. You want to be able to put your head on the pillow at night and feel good about who you are from the inside out. And I think any good business owner, which an actor is, you know, you own your own small business, they're running a business that's from your integrity. Because exactly what you said, this business is about relationships. That's really it. And if you're mucking up your relationships with a bunch of dirty tricks because you think it's going to get you a short-term win, it's not. It's going to bite you in the ass in the long run.
Nicholas?
Well, Emily said you can sleep your way to the middle. And I would just say that at my place in my career, I'm in the middle. So just putting it out there. Just putting it out there.
Says the producer.
Come see me right here.
Do you like postcards? Stay in touch.
I wasn't sure if you were like saying that's how you got to the middle, or was that an invitation? I wasn't clear. Bit of both.
So, hey, Ben, I hope you're still watching, not doing anything dirty in New York yourself right now. But here's a question for, let's kind of take off on Ben's question, does anyone have a story about being an actor doing something outside of the box in their, that tickled your fancy. Does anyone have a...
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yes, go ahead.
A young actor named Rick Fetterman, if you're out there. Hey, Rick. He wanted to be seen very specifically for a horror film I was working on at the time. This was 8 or 9 years ago. I will never forget it. He sent me a severed foot. He wanted to get a foot in the door.
I've heard
I
this
still have
story.
that foot.
I've heard this story,
I love it.
and now you're the person that it happened to?
It was the coolest. What the hell is this? And it had his picture on the bottom of the foot. Awesome. Just
Did he get his foot in the door?
He totally did. I torture him all
Did
the
he get the job? I'm actually quite serious. Did he get him the job?
He did not get that job. He got the next job.
So
It totally worked. I love the guy. I think he's great. Hilarious.
Yeah, go ahead. James, do you have a story?
I was just going to say, again, this is getting to know. And like you said, you should have a 1 page on every CD. Monika has a wonderful sense of humor. I know a lot of casting directors who would go, well, I won't use those words. They would not appreciate it. So know your market again. Know who they are. A great sense of humor. Others, not so much.
Emily, how about you? Did you ever try something out of the box to get attention for yourself as an artist?
No. We actually did, one thing that we did was, like in YouTube's infancy, we did this very funny video called the hair petting game, where we went out and filmed ourselves petting people's hair secretly on the streets of New York without them knowing. And we just did it for fun. We just did it because we wanted to create our own content, and we thought it was funny, and we went out and filmed that. And that actually took on a life of its own. It actually landed us a bunch of press, and like CBS interviewed us, and the New York Times. So that wasn't purposefully trying to get attention like that, but it was just kind of happened on its own.
Right. Nicholas, how about you?
No, I've kind of been racking my brains. I wish I had a fun story like that, but I really don't. It's all been fairly traditional auditioning.
Carlease, did you ever try anything that you give it up?
Yeah, I tried. I worked on The Terminal, directed by Steven Spielberg, and my writing teacher told me that Steven Spielberg's mother owns a restaurant. So I think I included my demo reel and a long letter to Steven Spielberg about how much I loved working with him and how I was impressed and blah, 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 blah. And I went to the restaurant first with my writing teacher, I think, and it just didn't seem appropriate to give the letter to his mother. So then I went back with my mother on my mother's birthday and introduced them, and they took pictures together, and Steven Spielberg's mother says, "Our children play together," and I thought that was exciting. And then one of the Douglases was there, one of the Kirks, the Douglas family, they were there, and that was exciting for my mother. And that letter is still in my car. I did The Terminal in, I believe, 2007, so it didn't work.
But you've got a great story.
But I got a great story. Yeah. And I have wine with Steven Spielberg's mother on occasion. Okay.
We've got a question here, and then I'll get to you next. Go ahead, what's your question?
It's not so much a question, but you're talking about something that one did. I was with Chicago's Second City, and all the actors was kind of like when you audition for a commercial, it was almost like a luncheon, it was a social thing. So that they saw me come in, they said, "Oh, Pat, again, she gets all the spots and everything." So when I was in the room reading for the commercial, I said to the director, producer, all the people in the room, I said, "Look, I traveled a long way to get here, and actors live for applause." I said, "Can I at least, as I exit, have a little applause?" They all started to clap as I opened the door, the actors that were waiting to go on. And walked out.
Here's a question, and I'll get to you next. Here's a question from Bella King. Bella? Where's Bella? Bella, is that Bella? There's Bella, for the panel. How much can the involvement of an actor's representatives impact your final casting of an actor? Anyone? Yes, Nicholas?
From my point of view, to put a number on it, to steal from James's shtick for a second. Sorry, shtick's not a good word. Sorry, expertise I should have said.
No worries.
10%. I mean, it really is the performance. But I've had agents and managers call me, and when it's done right, when it's done professionally and not sort of pushy, but in a very encouraging way, that's sort of, when you're on a fence, that's put me over, yeah. So I think it's definitely worth saying to your agent and manager, can you call and follow up? Can you tell them that I love this role? Can you tell them that I really think I can nail this? That stuff counts.
Monika, from your point of view, picking up what Nicholas just said, actors sometimes call their representatives and ask for feedback from their audition. And they'll hear, "Oh, you were great," or, it's not going to go on further. How specific is that? And from perhaps your perspective, obviously you can't speak for everyone, that kind of feedback that actors get?
I think most of the time it is rather banal. he was great, it's not gonna work out. But if it is in the shape of a new actor or it's a new relationship and that's an agent that I talk to quite honestly, I will give very specific feedback. He wasn't in his body. He was super nervous. He shouldn't have read for this part. He should have known because he's not there, or he should see that there's no connection. I get very specific if it's a new relationship and they really want to see what's going on with that actor. But usually, if it's not, and I don't like to give negative feedback either, because the winds could change and next Thursday you might not be available and I need to go to the next guy. So I keep it really positive for the most part, because I might be coming down the road to that actor in a minute, depending on if the deal doesn't close or not.
James, another term that gets thrown out to actors is, you've been pinned. You know, we're just waiting to decide. Would you talk about what it means to be pinned, as well as stunt casting on episodic TV?
Sure. One thing I did want to say real quick, though, about your representatives having some kind of input. I agree with Nicholas. I don't know if we close the deal per se. We certainly bring input in when they, we love the role, so forth. But I will tell you, your agents can screw up the deal too. I can't tell you how many times I've seen an arrogant agent. They can ruin your situation. So, as for the pinning, especially because there's so many words, pin, veil, hold, you got to watch and advise, which one of my interns once said, watch and eat fries, so whatever. It all depends. Again, I feel very, I feel very blessed and fortunate to have really good, blunt relationships with casting, because I've also created a safe place with them too, that they know they can be real with me and honest with me. Except Monika, she hates me. So, yeah, what are you gonna do? But what we try to identify is, in a very fair and appreciative view for them, is how hard the hold, pin, avail, or whatever it's called is. Because a lot of times, they'll want to have a week before, a week after, and I've got clients that are doing stuff all over the place. So it's like, but technically, to answer your question, it means that you need to be available, that you are on their list. That list can be 5 people, can be 1 person, could be you, and then it's the waiting game.
But the seesaw, the financing might not be completely in place yet. We
Or the
might have
boards
to
can
wait.
change.
The board can
Right.
change, the location can drop. We can't really book you, because the second we book you, we owe you that money, and we can't afford that on independent films. So we do a lot of, hey, checking in, still like it? Great. Hey, checking in, still there? Great. That's half my day.
And we'll
but it's a
actually,
seesaw.
right, it's a relationship again. It's, I'll call up and say, hey, look, we're getting some love from Shameless. We're getting some love from whatever. Right. Is he or she still looking strong in your show? Because I'm giving you first option. Okay, when can we know? And that'll sometimes give you the ability to go to the producer or the ultimate decision maker and say, hey, we got to get an answer to these guys.
Carlease?
But we don't play a game with that. Okay, I never do that.
I just wanted to speak to the representative question. I was a guest star on NCIS one time, and apparently in the breakdowns, my agent saw a role that was similar that they were casting for. And he got on the phone and called them up and said, hey, Carlease just did a very similar role in a previous episode. Why are you even bothering to do this? Why don't you just cast her? And they did. So I got to recur on NCIS, and now I'm kind of like the child advocate. So thank you.
Good agent. Yes, ma'am.
This is going back a little bit to keeping in touch and marketing. For Nicholas specifically, do you ever get direct marketing from actors that you haven't worked with before? And if so, how do you respond to it?
Yeah, if it's not because I haven't worked with before, I just had a protocol. If I'm in the midst of a project, I just refer them to my casting director. I said, please speak to Monika or whomever it is I'm working with. And if it's in between shows, I have a standard sort of form email that I just say, not casting at the moment, thanks for your interest. But I think if it's an actor whom I don't know personally, and have never met or worked with, I think that's breaking protocol, to be honest. I really think that isn't appropriate. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what Emily is talking about for the most part are people you've known, you've worked with, staying in touch with them, and that's I'm completely open to and fine and happy to keep up that engagement. But if it's someone I don't know, a complete stranger coming to me, I feel that there's sort of certain channels that should be directed through.
I think this is a really good example because every single person is different. And what Monika was saying, having a page on everyone, do they like postcards, do they not? Nicholas is someone who doesn't want to be approached if you don't already know him. Monika, I pitched myself to her out of the blue because I thought I was really right for something, and she agreed. And so it just, part of your job is to figure out who you're communicating with. Because, if maybe you met Nicholas at a networking event and he gave you his card and said, keep in touch with me, there's that permission to then stay in touch with him. Absolutely, I think, do your research, figure out who you want to create relationships with, and then talk to your friends, talk to people who might know that person. Can you get a referral? Do you know someone who can introduce you? Are they speaking at a panel where you could then introduce yourself and find out if it's someone who's open to creating a relationship with you? Every person is different. Every person is going to have a different preference. Don't let that scare you from taking action. Just take a couple of extra steps to figure out if you can get that permission and get that connection.
And also just field how they respond back to you. If they never respond back to you, then maybe after the 17th or less email or attempt, you might want to back off. You may want to try something differently or not contact them at all. But some people will be very receptive and open and others won't. So you just have to figure it out. Everybody's different.
And you can also build that into, don't be a stalker, come on now. Dirty tricks, they don't work. But you can build that into the first approach, like, hey, Nicholas, I don't know if this is the way to reach out to you, but I wanted to put myself in front of you. And then he can say, actually, I prefer that you don't contact me this way. And that way you're asking what is okay, and they're letting you know without, getting on the
I think that's taking too much of Nicholas. That's taking too much of Nicholas's time. I don't think that's fair. I think that it's smell it out. If you've gotten the permission, contact. If you haven't had that immediate contact, don't contact. There's a reason Nicholas is here with staff underneath him in different departments. We are there to meet that demand. I think that's important.
We've got a question from Pat Benson here in our audience for Monika or Nicholas. How does a very experienced actor find the right theatrical representation after getting back into the biz?
I have no idea.
Didn't want to ask the agent, huh?
Yeah, I think I would say.
James, ask the agent.
That's the question again.
What's the question again? Hey, how does a very experienced actor find the right theatrical representation after getting back into the biz?
Study the market first. Talk to casting directors.
That you know.
That you know, right.
And that you've worked with before.
Right, and they're going to tell you, who's good, who's sharp, who's hot, who works hard. I'd say that's probably your best bet. Industry decision makers, if you do know producers and so forth too, they're a great source. But that's really how, if you're experienced already, you've got the credits. So, again, you have a lot of respect for yourself and look for somebody that really fits you well and what you need.
Nicholas?
Yeah, I really was going to say, I think that is a question for James much more than it is for me. But if I remember correctly, if the question was an experienced actor, then ask your peers. Ask who are your friends are with and say, can I call your agent? Is your manager good? Are you happy with them? With all I have a lot of actor friends, as one might imagine. They almost always get their representation through a referral.
Emily, here's a question from someone in the audience. I thought perhaps you would be good to start to tackle this one. What advice, given that the first impression that you had with in an audition went really poorly, and how do you recover in that relationship, perhaps either with the casting person and with yourself in a poor audition experience?
Well, the first thing that I would say is do you know it went poorly or do you think it went poorly? Because sometimes as the actor, you think you bombed and you blew it and you didn't. And then you book it, but sometimes you don't book it and you think that you bombed, but you didn't. So, that would be my first wanting to really uncover if the feedback was bad, if you punched somebody in the face, if you did something really inappropriate. Or if it's just your mind telling you that you suck when really you don't. If you go in, there's so many different ways that this could go depending on the particular situation. But if you really bombed and you did something inappropriate, then that would be tough to repair that relationship.
And just let it go.
Yeah, and just
It's
let
over.
it, exactly,
It
just
doesn't
let it
matter.
go.
It's not a question worth even considering. Just
Yep.
move on.
Yep.
I would add one
Next.
thing, real quick though. If you've got a good relationship with an agent or your manager, sometimes if it really was, like you said, boy, you really hit on the most important thing. A lot of times it'll be in your head, not in reality. But if you do, look, most CDs I know, they're really genuine, authentic people. And if it is that bad, then I've called CDs and I've said, look, I just want to let you know, that this may not have gone great, but give an eye. It was bad. It was an off day. We all have off days, So sometimes if it's a very big role too, and a lot of eyes were on you, maybe that is a call that your agent might feel comfortable or your manager might feel comfortable making.
I would just add, if it's something that's done and finished and you've left the room and you're at home, then I agree with Monica. Forget it, get over it, move on. But if it's while you're still in the room, again, me being the producer and working with directors when we're in the auditioning process, I've got no problem whatsoever with an actor saying, I'm sorry, that didn't work. I sort of blew that. Can I do that again? I got no problem with that whatsoever. Like and even if they say, can I just take a minute? Can you see somebody else and I'll take a minute, run through my lines, come back again? No problem at all. That's totally fine. Be comfortable doing that.
Yes. Always ask.
Yeah.
In the room, always ask. They can say no. Okay, see you. Bye. Yes? Super. Always ask.
Hot off the press. James, this is a question for you. What is the most surprising thing that the numbers have told you?
What numbers? I don't do numbers. The pilot report will be out next week. For all of you who are interested, it'll be on my website, thepremiertalentgroup.com.
What is the website?
Thepremiertalentgroup.com, which is my company.
Premier with an E?
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Premier without the E.
Without?
Premiere is in excellence, not premiere is in movie premiere, okay?
Oh, okay.
Yep, Premier Talent Group. But, there's a lot of surprising information. Some of it is the fact that it's almost exactly the same as last year's pilot season. Certain things, age ranges, gender breakdowns, and so forth.
How many werewolves?
32. See, I got these numbers right here, man. What is interesting in this year's report is one of the things I do in the report is I go through the resumes of every single actor who booked series regular role, and I stratify each actor into known, named, working, heavy working, light working, and developmental. And in the past 4 years, there has been an overwhelming number of named actors and known actors in the 90s percentage. Last year, there was only 2.6% were developmental actors. This year was the first year in 5 years, really, that we've seen an increase in light working actors and in developmentals. Now, I will say on the developmentals, a lot of them were kids. There's a lot of family sitcoms. And one of the biggest notes, and I'm not going to say anymore because you can go look at the pilot report next week. There was a striking number of Australians and British individuals booked this year as series regulars. So what a lot of the studios did was they went across the pond.
Wait. Those actors have to qualify with our U.S. government with an O1 visa, proving with piles of paper that they are artists of extraordinary ability. I will say there are at least 2 studios I know that will not hire any foreign actors without a green card. So that's a little important factoid. But also I'd like to know, were they more affordable, those lead actors?
Absolutely.
Was there a price difference?
Yes, absolutely. You know, and I think over the last couple of years too, a lot of the names that were driving shows didn't pan out. The names did not, as you said, put the butts in the seats. So you do your math. It's like, am I going to pay extra value for a name, or I can get a heavy known actor or heavy working actor who's going to get the job done at half the price? And yes, a lot of the Australians and a lot of the British, heavy working actors where they're from. I mean,
With big theater backgrounds?
theater, training, the local shows, they were all series regs. The very talented individuals.
Equity is fighting back.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really interesting trends in the report, but that might be one of the most intriguing numbers this year.
We've got a question from Betsy. I don't know whether Betsy is here or what's that? She's in Chicago. Fabulous. Hi, Betsy. And a question for you, Carlease.
Carlease.
You know,
Carlease on
I
a
know it is
car.
Carlease.
Carlease. Oh, she spelled it
They
wrong.
spelled it wrong. My bad.
I just want to make sure so when they
yes,
follow me on
Carlease.
Twitter, they know it's
At carlease.com.
Carlease Burke, B-U-R-K-E.
With an E,
Carlease.
right.
With an
right.
E. With an E.
Here's the question. I've found some challenges that have blocked my path as an African-American woman in the industry. Can you talk to us about the path of your success as an African-American woman and what your approach in the business is? I need inspiration.
I think I should take that one.
Lord, 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 Lord. Here we go. Look, I had to cross my legs on that one. Oh, the old African-American question. You know, I don't think of that when I do my work. I really don't. I'm an actor. I happen to be black, African-American, okay. But I just don't think, I mean, oh God, read the question again, because I want to be very careful how I answer this. That's why, let me hear it again.
Betsy in Chicago.
She's had some challenges as an African-American actress, she thinks. I think this goes back to what you said. Do you think that the challenges are because you're African-American? I don't know that for sure. I don't see myself as any different than any other actor out there trying to do what they do. I hope this isn't discouraging, but if you're talented, if you work, if you're tenacious, if you take the time, if you do everything, market yourself, promote yourself, do what you enjoy, I believe there are roles out there for everybody. There are roles sometimes that are cast that were written for white men that a black woman might get. It doesn't matter your age, your height, your size. I do not put limits on myself. So if being black or African American or a woman is limiting to you, I would look at that. I just don't see it as a challenge. I'm not saying that your challenges aren't real, but there's so much more to what we do than just that.
With the world being much multiculturalism of the world that we're living in, and you could see here and the people in the audience and people who are watching us, would you talk about thinking outside of the box in casting, whether Nicholas or you, Monika, where the role is written as Carlease was saying, that it was written one way and say, you know what? Why don't we bring an Hispanic woman in for this role?
Yeah, I think that is a really good casting director's job. I think we owe it to the world we walk in to reflect it. Yes. And my personal battle is casting little people in non-elf roles. I would really like, I enjoy that they get, but I was really angry at the Snow White movie for casting average height people into the Seven Dwarf roles for the one, and that was upsetting to me because that's the only role they get access to, and that's a fight I have. I think that we definitely should reflect the world we walk in. So,
Nicholas, how about you in casting? You read a script where the opportunity may present itself for you to be able to think outside the box?
Sure, yeah. That's something that I'm always saying to my casting director and with the directors I work with, is let's not be too rigid about what's on the page. Let's be wide open to it. You know, let's not care too much. Let's let the best actor fulfill that role.
You know, one of the things I wanted to add that's just an interesting take on it. This morning I had breakfast with a studio executive and we talked about this exact issue. And it was intriguing to me to find out, you know, it's like they do look at certain, particularly again, not on the film side as much as TV, but, you know, you've got certain shows that they're not really germane to having diversity. And then what they do is they then try to go to other shows and force it in sometimes. And, you know, I agree completely that an actor is an actor. You know, as an agency, we push actors of all ethnicities for what is sometimes just called Caucasian. But it is intriguing. You know, you take a show like Mad Men. That's going to be an interesting thing to try and put, you know, so certain, especially now that we are doing a lot more period pieces in TV and very different ones. So, you know, I know that every studio does have, you know, their diversity individuals.
And it's
but
not just race.
Right, exactly.
It's physical disabilities.
Right, I have one
it's-
of the best
Yeah.
rosters of deaf actors. And I've got one that's so far up the food chain, he should be a series regular, okay? And he's, you know, he has a cochlear implant. He is not a problem on set. Say, I understand it if you're talking about costing the production more money, blah, blah, blah. But the fact is, he's just not getting looked at. And he has as many credits or more credits than most actors around, and has proven himself time and time again. But you're right, it's all forms of issues that actors face.
We've got a question from Angela. I think this is an internet question. What are your feelings on reality television and its popularity? Should actors consider taking more respectable reality roles? Does that make sense?
No, what?
The reality.
Angela?
What is a respectable reality role?
And is there such a
Well,
thing?
let's
Don't know
let's
what
pick
that
up
is.
how much how is reality television impacting actors' careers?
It's taking up valuable primetime television time.
Yes!
But I enjoy it.
See, that's the thing.
I do enjoy it.
I agree with what Monika said, but there are some shows that I watch.
Sweet, sweet HGTV, how I love you.
We've got a question from Brigitta. How would your panel suggest a disabled actor approach getting an agent who gets it, that was in quotes, often awesome actors with disabilities are overlooked?
I was just going to say, you know, again, it goes to what you were saying earlier, ask your peers. You know, your peers are going to know the agencies that are friendly and open. We, for example, are very open to really working hard for actors with any form of disability, but there's many agencies that do. So I think you're going to get your best information from the people in your support communities.
As well as the Tri-Union Guild, IMPWD is an amazing resource for any actor with a disability.
What is that?
IAMPWD.
And which is?
It's the Tri-Union Guild for actors with disabilities. It's an amazing and powerful force. They're really getting it together. It's
That's
fantastic.
great.
Is that the same, or is actors with disabilities a part of that? There
Yes,
was a
they're a
group
part-
called
they're a part
Actors
of that now.
With disabilities.
Yeah, Equity, AFTRA, SAG, they all banded together and formed IAMPWD, and it's fantastic.
Okay, we've got this question from Jay Evist, and wants to know how an actor in his 40s might find an agency that's truly interested in helping a mature actor with a moderate resume build a career. I don't simply want to be a filler for agency stable. I want an agent who has experience and interest in working with an older actor. Yes, go ahead.
I have an answer for that. I mean, the first thing that I would suggest is to give them something to market. If that means creating your own content. I don't know, you know, the specifics of the situation, but if you haven't been working in a while, or you're coming back, or you're new, give an agency something to work with. Build your own relationships with casting directors. So many actors, regardless of their age, regardless of where they're at in their career, they think it's all about landing an agent. Oh, if I just land an agent, then all these doors are going to open to me. And if you come to an agent with no ammunition, it's going to be really hard for them to get you in the room. So work on giving them something to get you in the room with.
Anyone else want to add on to that? Once, twice? That was a false yes. Okay.
I don't mind. I mean, I know it's a really tough place to be. It's not so much that, as I've stated before in the numbers, that there are opportunities for individuals of every age. But what you run up against when you do get into your 40s, the reality is your competition is extraordinary. They've spent 20, 30 years, whatever, getting 50 credits to 100 credits. So again, when you're talking 2,000 to 3,000 submissions a roll, you're talking and bringing 8 to 10, 15 people. Your competition's extraordinary, so it's a really, really uphill climb. What I would say almost is, instead of looking for an agency, find a great management firm that's really going to focus, ones that have 10, 15, 20 people, not 100, 200 people. You've got to have somebody that's passionately behind you and willing to break down the doors for co-star roles to get you traction again, because so much of it is about traction again. And then, you find an agent that has passion and wants to really put in the extra effort to do it. And it's not impossible. It's very possible.
And also, work with a theater company. I know that that's taboo in Los Angeles, but there are theater companies here, and they're really good. And you can actually work with a group of your contemporaries on material and get their notice. And then they start talking about you to their agents and their managers. Like, you got to come and see this guy. It's unbelievable. Yeah. That happens.
Yes. Carlease?
I was actually going to say the same thing. Do something that you can invite agents to. Again, just take the age out of it and just do what you need to do to get an agent. Ask your friends. Do an old-fashioned mailing. Remember those mailings? Invite them to come see your work. Just don't ever give up trying, because it's just the match of you and that one right person, and you don't know where that's going to come from. So just go for it.
We're winding down towards the end of our evening, and I want to thank all the people that have been here, that came to the SAG-AFTRA headquarters, and to Rochelle Rose, who is in charge of the Life Raft series, who does such a terrific job. But let's look to see if we can land with one more question on an optimistic note. It's tough out there, and we all know that, and it's tough for casting people trying to get work for themselves, and agents trying to get their actors work, and actors trying to get work, and producers trying to raise money. What feeds you to keep going forward as a creative person in this business?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say something totally off the topic, and then I'll get back to that question. Because earlier, as I was walking in here, did I hear Rochelle say that she found gum on one of the chairs? Okay, I have a chair back there with my name on it. I better not find any gum. I'm going to go back there later, look for my chair, Carlease Burke, and maybe Emily will hook you up with a special thing if your butt is in my chair. Okay. The one thing, what was the question?
What to do if there's gum on your chair?
I just wanted to say that. My chair is there. No, the question was...
The question is to leave the audience with
something.
with a sense of optimism. What fuels you to continue to go forward?
That's right. What fuels me every day. Just a strong belief in myself, a belief in myself about who I am and why I'm on this planet. I have no doubt that this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to entertain. I'm supposed to do television shows and create content and tell my story, and everything that I've done in my career is a part of me, and it has told my story. So I would say a very strong belief in myself and stubbornness.
Nicholas?
Yeah, as you open the question, it's very, very difficult out there, and it's always a struggle. But what I do it for, and what fuels me every day, is I find it so incredibly satisfying and joyous even when you succeed at it. When, that first day on set, when I know I've worked 2 or 3 years to get us here, but here we are, we're shooting, the film is financed, we're making it. 18 months later, 12 months later, we're not at the premiere. Here we are, we've done it when the series premieres in the network. It's, all that work is worth the payoff once it's completed and once it's seen out there by people.
Emily?
I actually think one of the reasons why I am an actor and why I love working with other actors is I think that they play a really important role in helping society evolve. I think it takes a lot of courage to actually face what you're feeling, whereas most people want to do everything that they can to get away from their feelings and to step out of what's actually happening. And actors, filmmakers, directors, all of these people are dedicated to helping us as human beings have an experience, have a reaction, to think, to feel, and that's what helps us question ourselves and grow. So that's what really fuels me, is remembering why I'm doing it.
James?
For me, well, I'm not going forward. That's it. I quit. No. I'm inspired by my actors. It sounds geeky, but one of my guys just finished a 3-episode guest lead on Boardwalk Empire, and to watch him work his craft and he's so extraordinary. It's unbelievable. And I have an actor in the audience tonight who's an extraordinary talent, and he fights so hard and works so hard, is so professional. Frankly, I'm inspired by my actors.
Monika, will you see so many actors come into your office?
I'm a big dorky fan. I love it. I think it's so fun. I'm an emotional mess, and I learn through movies. So I do it for Beasts of the Southern Wild. I do it for A Separation. I love those things.
So from all of us on stage to all of you in the audience and all who are watching on the internet, we wish you great luck and fortitude in pursuing your careers with passion and perseverance. And hopefully at one time we will all cross paths working together. So good night from all of us here.
L'chaim.